The New Jersey Devils are just one win away from advancing to the next round of the playoffs and taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. They have a chance to clinch it against the New York Rangers tonight at Madison Square Garden. We have a lot to talk about in today's episode of Locked On Devils. Jersey Joe accompanies me on today's episode as well, as we're going to preview Game 6 and give our thoughts throughout the course of the playoffs up to this point. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Elliott scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play-by-play announcer, Devils writer for Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. I am joined alongside Jersey Joe once again. So, Jersey Joe, the Devils are only one win away from advancing to the next round of the playoffs. They have a 3-2 lead over the New York Rangers. Obviously, I shared my thoughts in the previous episode, and now it is your turn to share your thoughts on the game because, like I said, the Devils are just one win away from sending the New York Rangers back home across the Hudson River.
Well, first off, before the series started, I said Devils in 6, and I meant it. I meant it. And I know Ranger fans were laughing when we were down 2-0. Back to game 5 now. So I always tell people, no matter how great this team is, they still give me agita when I watch the Devils play the Rangers in the postseason. It really does. The true X factor for me is Akira Schmid across the board. I sent you my article, and there's a calming effect he has on this team, and this team just believes in him. And I know I sound like I'm into being in a Zen garden, but he has that sensei type ability. He controls things, like you mentioned before on the other podcast. 90% of the game is mental for a goalie. Other 10% is physical.
Yeah, so you're referring to how I think Timo Meier got underneath the skin of Igor Shesterkin, because I don't want to digress away from Akira Schmid, but I just want people to know, like, in the previous episode, I talked about how Timo Meier was sort of being a menace towards Shesterkin in period number 1, and it seemed to get to him just a little bit. And as a result, we saw Shesterkin just have a bit of a collapse in net for the New York Rangers. Obviously, the first couple goals were kind of fluky, but that goal led up by Dawson Mercer, that's definitely not a fluke. And then obviously Eric Haula was able to get the empty netter later on. But digressing a little bit, yeah, Akira Schmid has been so good in net for the New Jersey Devils, because you got this 22-year-old kid, this rookie, and basically he's coming in and just shutting the door down against the Rangers. And I said in the previous episode, he is building up one hell of a story arc for himself, because if you think about it, like everything I just said, the odds are stacked greatly against him. Like, he shouldn't even, like, going into the playoffs, I think we expected for him to, like, maybe just play maybe one game during the first round in case it was like a dire emergency or in case it was a safe base. But, you know, Lindy Ruff, he pulled the trigger early in game 3, let him start. And now here we are, and the Devils are just one win away from clinching. And I would say Akira Schmid, if there were MVPs for the first round, I'd say Akira Schmid would hypothetically be my MVP, just because of what his impact meant, especially in game number 3. So Akira Schmid making all these great saves at such a young age, and also just doing it against a team like the New York Rangers and building up that confidence come next round, because knock on wood, but 79% of the teams that win game 5 usually end up winning the series.
I was knocking on wood, by the way. That's what that knock was for. Yeah, I'm superstitious, so I keep it that way. I've been that way since I was a kid playing baseball. But anyways, I digress. But back to Schmid. You look at the way the playoffs have been. With a minimum of 3 games, you see the goals saved above expected per 60. Akira Schmid leads the whole entire playoff goalies in that category. 1.567 goals saved above per 60, topping Igor Shesterkin's 1.108. And Linus Ullmark is a 0.777. So what does that really say? It means Schmid's only given up 2 goals in 3 games, and his goals expected against was 7.02, but his goals save above expected was 5, topping Igor's 5.7.
And do you think, I think the rest of the way, because I spoke to Christy Flannery of the Hockey News, and I think you got to ride the hot hand of Akira Schmid, but at the same time, I don't want to forget about Vitek Vanecek and his overall good season. And in the words of Christy Flannery, who cares who's in net, because you got 2 reliable goalies now that the New Jersey Devils can go to at any point. So I think Vitek
right now you got to go for the jugular. You got to go for the jugular. Let Schmid do it out.
Let Schmid do it out. Yeah. So going into Game 5, I was like, this is pretty much a momentum shift because, like I said, whoever wins this game most likely will win the series. And for Devils, my thing is you got to close it out. Close it out at Madison Square Garden. Don't give the Rangers any chance of life. Don't give them any sort of confidence booster. And the Devils are a good road team, so I think at this point it's their series to lose. So
right now the Devils have them on their heels. And the Rangers are not playing with house money. They're playing with high expectations. They traded for Tarasenko. They traded for Patrick Kane. They're getting all this extra hype and hoopla from Steve Levy and Ray Ferraro, who were stroking off the Rangers on TV this whole entire time. I hate to use that term, but they literally were doing that. And I'm glad that PK Subban's doing a little bit of the Ric Flair right now. It's a fun sight to see now. We got everyone upside down.
yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's nice that PK Subban is sort of like representing the Devils in that sort of way, and that he always has their back, and he'll always have a place in the hearts for the New Jersey Devils. But yeah, so Schmid has definitely been a big contributor for Devils in net. But let's talk about some other players. So like Eric Haula, he had a great outing. Michael McLeod, he continues to like dominate on the faceoffs, and no one's really talking about it. There's been a lot of silent but deadly impactful kind of players during the series for Devils, and it kind of shows you how much depth they truly have, because it's not just the Jack Hughes show, it's not the Nico Hischier show, and also you need to factor in that Jesper Bratt, he's really done little to nothing, and he looks scared out there, but I'm sure he'll get his footing underneath him. But yeah, it's not Jesper Bratt show, it's not the Timo Meier show, it's been a collective unit. So Eric Haula scored twice yesterday. Andre Palat, he was able to get the opening goal. And Dawson Mercer, he's finally able to get himself going just a little bit. So it's just been a huge collective effort. And I got to ask you this, Joe. I think the Devils, they have all the momentum going into Game 6, don't they?
They have a lot of momentum. Yes. A lot of the other betting sites have the Devils at like a plus 105. Meanwhile, they have the Rangers at like a minus 130. So they seem favored to win at the Garden. The Rangers do, but I don't think that's the way it's going, because A, it's momentum. B, the young goaltender is battering the Rangers goaltender in Shesterkin. The Devils are in Shesterkin's head now. And I mentioned this an episode ago or plus, and the Rangers get more tired now playing the Devils game. The Devils are done playing the Rangers game. As long as the Devils play the way they did last night, they will do what they do right. It's just, like I mentioned before, the art of war. You know your system, you follow, your higher ups, like your generals and all that. Everything stays in line, you play accordingly, your odds of winning are greater than some others. So I believe in the way this core group from The brass all the way down is set up to deliver a big win. And one of the guys I know from Chicklets, I know his name. I can't mention them anymore, but he said Devils in 6. I said Devils in 6, and see it on my Twitter.
I did also, and people can look back at this at my videos or my previous podcast episodes, but yeah, I also said Devils in 6. I thought that they could repeat what they did during the course of the regular season. And of course, they go down 0-2. Rangers fans are saying it's going to be an easy sweep and saying that the Devils aren't ready, or saying that Devils fans are delusional, or whatever case might be. I was like, look, I've seen what this team is capable of doing. And speaking of capability, I want to hear some of your lookouts from Game 5 that could carry over into Game 6. Still more in store with Jersey Joe, but before we continue, I want to tell you about Game Time. So Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. So forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets from football to basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more, and maybe a ticket to Game 6 of the first round playoff series between the New York Rangers and the New Jersey Devils. So you might want to get your ticket while you still can. The Game Time guaranteed means you'll get the best price. If the ticket is in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute ticket deals, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, let's get back to our discussion with Jersey Joe. Take it away once again. So obviously we talked about Schmid. We talked briefly about Hala, but give me more of your thoughts from Game 5, and how does this and who carries over into Game 6? Who do you have your eye on?
Well, you got to keep your eye on Kevin Ball. He's been nothing but what Bruce Springsteen would say, bring on your wrecking ball and give me your best shot and see what you got. And really, he's laid down the hammer. He's this young version of Ken Danico and Zdeno Chara in one. I really love what he's doing. The next guy you got to think about is Jonas Siegenthaler, Ryan Graves to an extent, but you really have to think about all those other guys like Nathan Bastian, Curtis Lazar, those guys that don't get enough credit for being on the fourth line. Jesper Boqvist, he was so creative yesterday. Even though he didn't exactly score, he was, killing time, keeping the puck in the Rangers' end, and trying to create some chaos. We need guys that do that, because when you take away time and space in your opponent's zone, you're buying time for your goaltender to regroup. You're buying time for your defenseman to join in on the rush a little bit, and it's another weapon in the Devils' playbook.
Yeah, I think Jesper Boqvist's skating ability has been on full display during the course of the playoffs, even though a lot of people might not acknowledge his contribution. Curtis Lazar, another X factor, because he was inserted into the lineup for Game 3, and this is a guy who's barely played with the Devils during the course of the year. So it was somewhat of a big risk for Lindy Ruff to sit Miles Wood in favor of Curtis Lazar, because with the exception of a couple injuries here and there, Miles Wood has never been a healthy scratch during the course of the regular season. So making him a healthy scratch now, I'm sure it wasn't easy for Lindy Ruff to do. There's a lot that goes into scratching a player more than what people realize. But yeah, Curtis Lazar has also been a good add to this roster, and something I talked about in previous episodes, which is you got to give Curtis Lazar a chance, because I think he could do everything that Miles Wood could do, but a little more efficiently. But yeah, the big one is Kevin Ball. Especially we saw him just play aggressive, and he is, I think he is right now the New Jersey Devils' best defensive minded defenseman. Like, when I say defensive minded, he's not going to score. That's not his job. He's not going to rack up the points, but you see him holding down the fort on the blue line. And something else I realized is that he is being he's not afraid to thrust his body around. So you got him like hip checking some Rangers players. You got him going at it with Goodrow, but I think for Goodrow, he needs to like pick on someone his own size, and in that case, pick on someone a little smaller, because Kevin Ball really had to do was just like stand tall, because Goodrow wasn't going to get any good licks on him. But yeah, so we're seeing Kevin Ball just piss off the Rangers just a little bit, but hey, that's what Kevin Ball's supposed to do. And it's something I talked to Christy Flannery just a couple days ago, which is it's just amazing that Kevin Ball has gone from 7th role defenseman to now being an everyday player and actually being on the most consistent defensive pairing line alongside with Damon Severson, who's also accepted somewhat of a smaller role since the Devils have more depth this year.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the way that this team is constructed. You have a couple other guys like Luke Hughes and Simon Nemec who will come up eventually, but not right now. The time for this group is just too good to allow anyone else to step in unless there's any other injuries. But I digress from that. But if you're looking at the NHL playoff odds of making the second round, the highest odds for someone making the second round is Edmonton, is like close to 85%. The Devils have an odds of 80.5% making the second round. So if they clinch at the Garden, that's Ranger Elimination Day, better known as Code Red.
Well, I think like I said, this is at this point, this is the Devils' series to lose. They are in the driver's seat, and the Rangers are in trouble. And Gerard Gallant, I don't think he can be. I don't think he's too pleased with his team, because he expressed his frustration after Game 4, and I presume Game 5 didn't go much better. But it seems like something happened to the Rangers' execution that made them take a couple steps backwards. Because if you compare their goal differential from the first 2 games and the last 3 games, obviously the difference is night and day. Their power play hasn't been all that effective. They're coughing out the puck a lot more. It seems like they're trying to play a style of hockey that works better for the Devils and not necessarily their own team. The only line that constantly gives the New Jersey Devils a headache here and there, or is a threat to score, is that kid line of Heidel, Kakko, and Lafreniere.
So another thing, like the first 2 games, it was the Kreider line that was more dangerous than anything. But the little kid line isn't doing as what they are supposed to, and those guys are getting fits with Schmid, and Schmid is feeding off basically what the Rangers are trying to do, but that he knows what they're capable of doing, and he just he brings this stability in net where the defenseman and the forwards just feel good. Like yesterday, the Rangers think that they have a 4v4 like advantage, but then they get it turned into a shorthanded goal given up. Like Eric Holla on the breakaway, Dawson Mercer also like scored a shorthanded goal. He just bombed that one. And I tell people, no matter how many times on Heads Up Hockey or on Pucks and Pitchforks, that the Taylor Hall trade is the most important trade tree, along with what ties into the Timo Meier and Blake Coleman trades, that have helped the New Jersey Devils speed through this rebuild and getting them into the fruits of this many years of success in the playoffs. And you've seen it here first. Timo Meier is the agitator once again, and you are going to have him for many years. Jesper Bratt's going to be here for many years. And I would like to see those guys. They're going to eventually break through. If it's not in tomorrow, when this video goes up, it'd probably be the second round if they clinch. So I can see it opening up a little bit more. The Rangers, to me, they look too exhausted because they just seem frustrated. They grip their sticks too tight. Guys like Tarasenko, Lafreniere, Kane, they want to pass too much. And it's becoming their death wish. And I think the Devils now are shooting the puck a lot better, and they're seeing the seams a lot better. I'm not sure what you think, but this Devils team looks like they're ready to kill.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I could say is like they have gotten better these last 3 wins. So their first win, game 3, they escaped by the skin of their teeth. They win in overtime. Game 2 wasn't dominating fashion, but they were able to get the win. And it was better than their last performance in game 3. And then here we are, game 5. Akira Schmid is able to secure a shutout. Eric Holla is showcasing why he is so valuable to any playoff team he contributes on. We saw the New Jersey Devils but just basically take the wind out of the Rangers sails early, because early on you could just see that the Devils, that I usually hate using this phrase because I don't believe in the phrase like wanting it more in sports, because it's like, look, everyone wants to win. Like I don't get what that mind, I don't get why people would say that teams have this certain mindset, but for lack of a better term, in the first period, you just saw the Devils be way more aggressive, way more physical, play with speed a lot more. They looked like they were better skaters out there, and you just knew that the Rangers, that they weren't going to win after they let up the second goal to Eric Holla in period number 2. You just knew that it just seems like that deflated them a little bit more. And I think going back to what I said in the previous episode, it might be in their heads just a little bit, like what Timo Meier did with Igor Shesterkin. So it might be mental at this point for them, and you got to take advantage of their mental mishaps, because we're seeing the Rangers make mistakes that they haven't really done during the course of the regular season. And quite honestly, don't give them any hope whatsoever. Close it out in game 6.
What the Devils been doing lately is scoring first and scoring often, and maybe not as often.
Which is really hard to do against Shesterkin, who's one of the best goalies in this generation.
Right now, it just feels like the Devils know what they're doing at this point. And to give you a little context, to win round 1 and 6, the Devils have an odds of 46.8 per money puck. And you look at the Rangers odds, it is 0%. But the winning the best of 7 for the Rangers is a 19.5%. The Devils for winning in 7 would be 33.7%. So really, this is do or die for the Rangers. And any Devils fan who's going to the Garden, the tickets are on more of a discount now, and that kind of tells you something. And I have a buddy named Billy Botch of the Trap Podcast. You probably had him on before.
I haven't, but I would like to at some point.
So he's going to be at game 6, and Neil Villapiano, you know him. We know him well. He's going to be
the Devil State of Mind podcast.
So we got a couple of guys that are going to be there, and hopefully this is going to be a wonderful closeout. And you know what? I respect Gerard Gallant as a coach, but just some of the things that some of the other Ranger players I do not like, for the first couple of games, but definitely like Ryan Lindgren's a guy I just don't like.
Yeah, we saw Lindgren get into it with Siegenthaler a little bit. I guess Lindgren was just a little frustrated that the puck late in period number 3 didn't go past Schmid, which quite honestly I was still baffled by. That should have been a goal for the Rangers, and trust me, I the Devils know that feeling. But yeah, Lindgren. Go ahead.
If you looked at the camera angle, so from Sportsnet and NHL TV, they actually showed when Schmid was down, he had his paddle, the back end of the paddle where the blade meets. It squares up to the puck, kept it out, and Holla didn't close his hand. He swiped it away. And that was the big key right there. Even if the Devils do give up that goal, the Devils still end up winning that game because they would have 3+ goals or 2+ goals, but go for that third goal anyway. But
I think that was honestly, I know Eric Holla had a big game getting a power play goal, a shorthanded assist, and an empty netter, but I think that was the play of the game for him because he saved the bacon of Akira Schmid and preserved his shutout.
And I'm not sure if you saw this, but when Nico Hischier took that face off, he actually blind soccer passed it right to Eric Halla right on the tape.
And and he got the primary assist on the empty netter. So Nico Hischier, he's slowly but surely coming into fruition just a little bit, but at least he's putting up some sort of production, and I'm sure we'll see Nico Hischier take his game to the next level once the Devils, if and when the Devils do advance.
Well, I'll say this: in Nico Hischier's draft year, I was watching him play for Switzerland, and the type of drive he had was more designed for playoff hockey. I knew that he would be a playoff guy. It was only a matter of when. And he and Siegenthaler on that team, they just were designed to win. And then when they eventually came close to upsetting Team USA, for me, that said a lot about him. And just seeing Siegenthaler play his game at the highest level as well, I think these guys have yet to prove themselves even more. And you look at Schmid, he's done a lot. Kevin Ball, when he and Mercer were part of Hockey Canada and they won the gold against Russia, I had a good feeling that these guys were going to turn into really good NHL players. Some people doubted Kevin Ball's skating. I did not, because I saw him on the transition and he helped chip in a little bit offensively, but I knew his hard hitting, and I knew I turned you on to a special Sasquatch in our Devils defense. So really, I just see the trends growing with these kids in their later years.
Yeah, I mean they are definitely developing in the right direction, and I think people are, and at a big stage like the playoffs, I think it's a good pedestal to for some of these kids to showcase their talent. Like for Kevin Ball, for example, I think I did a full-fledged episode about it during the course of the regular season. Towards the end of it, I said, look at his defensive point shares, look at his blocks, look at his hits, look at the amount of penalties he's not getting, or that kind of thing. He's being very physical and aggressive out there, and I think he deserves a lot more credit. Or look at someone like Nathan Bastian coming up big on the PK. There's a reason why the Rangers are 0 for 10 in their last power play opportunities. And then you see like Curtis Lazar, he's been an X factor. Akira Schmid, he's been crucial for Devils, 22 years old, not much experience, but at the biggest stage of the playoffs, he is definitely coming through for this Devils team. So Jersey Joe, before we wrap things up, I want to hear like predictions for Game 6. So obviously we got some friends heading to the Madison Square Garden. Hopefully anyone who's heading to Madison Square Garden, please be safe. You know, obviously things can get a little out of hand, especially if the home base is not too happy. So drink responsibly and make sure you don't antagonize. Like, I know sports are fun and all, but be safe.
I was just say, have a cheer and a beer, but don't have so many beers that you're gonna cause problems. Do not. That's just not what I would do. But I would typically never go to Madison Square Garden, especially for a hockey game, because that's like asking for hell. But to me, Billy and Neil are brave souls enough to deal with Ranger fans and whatnot. I can't stomach that. To me, like dealing with the Rangers at Game 6 in the Eastern Conference Final was hell enough for me. So because I'd rather be at my own home and be comfortable. But definitely, guys, just be loud, be proud, bring the jersey-tude, and just make sure that you send a message saying that New Jersey's here for many years, and we're going to create so many nightmares for them and other teams that doubt us, and make the haters hate us and make them want to join us, especially that other podcast that has more critics against us.
Yeah, so I think I know who you're talking about, but yeah, so obviously we've been seeing the frustrations with Lindgren, Zibanejad, and few others during the course of the last game, and also Goodrow going at it with Ball. So it's in the head of the Rangers a little bit. So here's what I'm predicting. I predict the Devils close it out at Madison Square Garden. They're a good road team, and they do something for the first time that they have not done since 1994, in which they go down 2-0 at home, and they're still able to win the series in, I believe, 6. I believe the Devils won that series against the Boston Bruins in 94 in 6 games. That was 5 years before I was born, people. So just if you need some reference. But yeah, so
I was a 5-year-old back.
So let me think. I think it's time for Timo Meier and also Jesper Bratt to get back on track a little bit. We've been seeing Andre Palat get back on track. We saw Dawson Mercer get back on track. We've been seeing Nico Hischier get back on track. I know Bratt has a few points in this series, but I think it's time for Jesper Bratt to be a little less timid out there and basically showcase what he was able to do during the course of the regular season. And while I love Timo Meier's physicality, I think it's time for him as well to showcase what he's capable of doing from a scoring aspect, because his physicality, his grit, and his menacing ways are great and all, but I want to see Timo Meier score a couple goals here and there. So I think it's time for Timo Meier and also Jesper Bratt to get back on track a little bit.
So I'll throw this in there. So Schmid has a big night in net. Jack Hughes opens up the scoring once again. Timo scores a nice power forward goal. Dawson Mercer feeds off again, and Kevin Ball has at least 3 hits and 5 blocks.
Well, I'm really excited for Game 6 because it's going to be the potential game clincher, and I can't wait to see the headlines. Devils doubted once again. They lost the first 2 games. People were calling them fraudulent. People were saying that they didn't deserve to be in the playoffs. It was a fluke, but they're doing what they did back early in the year, which is they dropped the first 2 regular season games and they started winning a lot, including going on a 13-game win streak. So, Jersey,
you're going to win a lot. You got to have your boy Palat step up once again and bring that wrecking ball.
Absolutely. So, Andre Palat had 5 shots on goal in the previous game. He only had 3 shots on goal during the first 4 games. So he's definitely coming into his own a little bit more. So Jersey Joe, any final thoughts before we close it out?
Devils win 4-1, and they ain't done.
They ain't done. My thing is, if they make it out the first round, I am perfectly happy with whatever happens afterwards, because in my eyes, if they make it out the first round, they've shown the hockey world, hey, we're legitimate. This wasn't a fluke, and we're here for years to come. So I want them to be competitive in the playoffs for the first time in a decent while.
I will say this. The odds may be stacked against us, but we got the momentum. Let's do it, baby. Let's go Devils. Red alert. Ranger Elimination Day coming.
All right. Ranger Elimination Day is coming, guys. So we'll see what happens. But Jersey Joe, thank you once again for joining and sharing your thoughts. And yeah, we previewed Game 6. We talked about Game 5. We talked about some players who have been stepping up big time for New Jersey Devils. And who knows? When I had Christy on this show just a few days ago, everything she said about the Devils came true. She was big on Eric Haula. We talked about Eric Haula. He has a big game. Kevin Ball, she said Kevin Ball was one of the more underrated players. He was able to showcase to the Devils fans why he's out there. Let's see. We talked about Akira Schmid being a great goalie, and he has his first career playoff shutout. So I have you on the show, and let's see what happens in Game 6.
I think it's going to be an interesting game tomorrow. Oh, boy. It's going to be good.
It's definitely going to be good. Jersey Joe, thanks once again.
Thank you.